This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today is Brian Glick with Revival Theater Company in Cedar Rapids with the upcoming production of Parade in Concert. First off, welcome back, Brian.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Year 2 for Revival Theater.
Yay, we made it through 1.
Congratulations on having a year 2.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we always say when we have a new, when there's a new theater company, there is still going strong. Yes. So reflect on the first year for just very briefly.
It was a whirlwind, we learned a lot, and, we had great success. We ended up in the black, so financially,
even
not
better.
by much, but we did it, and we've had a tremendous amount of community support, and people came and saw our shows, and so here we are for round 2.
That's right, and it's Parade in Concert. Before we talk specifically about Parade, because that's a musical may not be familiar to a lot of people.
Right.
Talk to me just a little bit about the in concert concept and format. We've seen a few of these in our area here just in the last couple of years, but it's kind of a new thing.
It is. It's been kind of a popular thing on the East Coast, and it's sort of trickled its way down. It's sort of an economic way of producing a show with less props and less costumes and less sets, and so sort of the setup is, we have a choir of about 40 singers, and then the orchestra is on stage, and then in front of the orchestra is where the performers, the main actors, sort of portray the story and play the story out. So that's sort of the general setup, and so the dialogue is sort of cut back, but we're keeping most of it intact for Parade because it moves so well, and it tells a very coherent and unusual story. Correct.
So you don't want to lose that.
Yeah. So things are told minimalistic, and so that's sort of nice, so that you really can get down to the story as a focus and the music.
So you will, because I've seen this both ways. I've seen really just pulling pieces out and expecting the audience in a very familiar piece like The Music Man, where we're just gonna do a very minimal setup, and then we're gonna get right to the songs.
Sure.
But then I've also seen it where it's almost a semi-staged production where you are really telling the full story, and that's what this is.
That's what this is. Yeah, we're telling people keep saying, "Oh, I wish you were doing the full show." We are doing the full show. We're just presenting it in a more slimmed down fashion, but it's fully staged, and you're just not going to see big sets and lots of costumes and multiple props.
So for those who haven't seen Parade, it is an award winner fairly recently off Broadway. I know Jason Robert Brown, who is the it guy on Broadway right now, wrote the music for this. But it is an unusual topic for musical theater.
It is. It's not what we say. It's not The Sound of Music. It's not The Music Man. But part of our mission is to do thought-provoking pieces, and this fits that.
This is definitely that.
It's definitely that, and I think when you go to the musical theater and something really touches a nerve or strikes a nerve, that's a pretty cool experience. And so Parade does that, and it's one of those shows where you'll hear from a lot of theater companies and say, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that show," but it's quite the undertaking. But our rehearsals are going so well, and the group that we pulled together is just pulling it off so nicely that we feel lucky that we're able to tackle this.
For those who don't know, sketch out the plot just briefly.
Sure. So the story takes place in Atlanta, Georgia in 1913, and Leo Frank, who is a manager of a pencil factory, discovers that a young girl by the name of Mary Fagan is killed in the basement of the pencil factory. And he is indicted for her murder and then later convicted and sentenced to be hanged. And over the course of a year, his wife fights for his innocence. And we come to find out that there were things that happened in the trial that just weren't factual. And a lot of false stories, and a lot of theater was taking place in that courtroom. And so over the course of a year, his wife fights for his innocence and goes all the way up to the governor, who was Governor Slayton was the governor at the time in Georgia, and gets him to reopen the case. And without giving too much away, the story sort of unwinds there, and we find out more about what happened. But it is extremely fascinating. I keep telling the cast that I could research this for 6 more months and unravel all this new stuff that I didn't know about. It's just the most interesting story, and I know that in media, journalism classes, and in those studying to be lawyers, they reference the story quite a bit. So it's just fascinating.
And really something that has a lot of reverberations and applications today when we look at how things go viral and people who may or may not, who say something maybe they shouldn't, or maybe didn't say it at all.
Right, exactly.
Get pilloried.
Yeah, I mean, there's doing some research. There's a journalism teacher in the South who teaches his students, if you don't speak the truth, someone's life can be at stake. And the thing about Parade that's interesting, this is in 1913, and the story is still extremely touchy and relevant. I mean, we're talking about the Confederacy, we're talking about racism, and we're talking about anti-Semitism, and that stuff is still very much a part of our society today. And we certainly know, like you're referencing, that the media can change the public's perspective, whether it's true or not.
Talking with Brian Glick from Revival Theater Company about the upcoming Parade in Concert next weekend. We'll talk dates and all that stuff in just a minute. Now, we've I think, done a good job of explaining why this is an important and interesting show.
Sure.
Up to now, we haven't said it's much fun.
No, it's tons of fun.
Yes.
I promise.
So that's the part we got to get to, because the music, while the subject matter is very serious, the music is really uplifting.
Oh, the music, that's what really grabs people. I mean, it didn't have a huge run on Broadway because, again, it's not the Sound of Music. It's not going to sell tickets. But the music, the score Jason Robert Brown wrote, is phenomenal. And most people who grew up in the theater in some way, shape, or form have this cast recording. And, again, it's a musical theatrical presentation, so it's going to have all the things you sort of expect. It has some, glitzy moments and loud orchestrations and movement, and so it's going to catch you and entertain you just as much as it is going to affect you, or strike a nerve with you. So, and we have a cast of 60 people, and an orchestra on stage, so that alone is going to certainly grab your attention.
And you're in Cedar Rapids at the Scottish Rite Temple Auditorium, which is a great room if people haven't been there.
And it's interesting because the space looks like a courtroom.
It does.
And so we're retrofitting the space with projections and lighting to really and playing some of the action down on the floor and in the audience, so that people really feel like they're part of an immersive, production. So that's exciting.
And next weekend, right?
Yes, Thursday through Saturday, November 12th through the 14th. All three are at 8 p.m. Yeah.
Okay, and how do people get tickets?
Multiple ways. You can go to artsiowa.com, or you can go in person to the Orchestra Iowa box office, which is right next door to the Paramount Theater, or you can go on our website and find the link there, which is revivaltheatercompany.com.
Okay. Well, this is, I know this is one of the, like you said, this is one of those shows where anybody who is in the theater or does theater has bought the cast recording and has said to themselves, boy, I'd love to do this sometime. So people can get a chance to see one of those shows that theater people have always wanted to do. So.
Yeah, and this is our season opener, so come on out and see the show and support the theater.
All right. Brian Glick from Revival Theater Company. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.